Okay, so psychology and investment decision we'll be discussing in this session. So first problem, the first mistake that people do or for a new investor is that is insufficient diversification. A large number of researches indicate that investors they do not adequately diversify their portfolio. Now, those who are new to the field of finance or some young scholars are there, I just would like to tell them that diversification of portfolio is one of the important tool to minimize the risk inherent in some investment. There is a common saying that don't put all your eggs in the same basket. So because if you keep all your eggs in the same basket, then if something happens to that basket, all your eggs will be broken. So that's why it is advised that your eggs should not be your eggs should not be kept in the same basket, single basket, and you should diversify. And if you diversify, your risk attached to that investment will be minimized. And here the important terminology is the portfolio. What is portfolio? Portfolio is actually a group of security. Anything like if I ask what is, if I'm asked what is my portfolio, I may say that I have some investment in my bank fixed deposit, I have some investment in a postal fixed deposit, I have some investment in some securities or some stocks of a company, I have invested some money in mutual fund. So mutual fund, equity shares, bank, post office, postal securities, taking everything, that becomes my portfolio. And here I have diversified because I have not invested only in equity share, only in the bank, or only in the mutual funds. So I have diversified. Again, within one class of investment, again we can go for diversification. Like in the equity share itself, we should not only invest in one equity share. We can think of investing maybe one part of our money in one category of share and some portion of our money in some another category of equity shares. So this is how we can go for diversifying our entire portfolio. And it is seen that for young investors, their portfolio holdings are much lesser than the recommended level. There is a recommended level that one should have a such minimum level of portfolio holdings. And now what is that recommended level? This financial advisors or this financial or this investment industry itself, they have come up with some formula that how much equity shares or what should be the level of your portfolio, how much of your total income you should invest, how much of your total income you should keep for emergency use. Some formula is there. One, just for example, one example that 100 minus your age, that should be the proportion of your equity or equity related instrument in your portfolio. Okay, like if suppose someone's age is 25, so that person 75% of that person's total investment can go into the equity shares. If someone's age is 50%, so 100 minus 50, so that person should keep only 50% of his holding in the equity shares. But again, that is only advisory. It's not mandatory that all the time people have to follow this advice only. So this is a recommended level of portfolio holdings, and it is seen that people normally they have their portfolio holdings are much lesser than the recommended level. Okay. But while diversifying their portfolio, investors' psychology play an important role, and some of the psychological biases are explained below. Now, what is that psychological biases? One is the home side bias and another is the familiarity bias. A study was conducted asking the investors to rate the preference for investment in the two different securities or different securities, and it was found that there is a clear-cut preference among the investors with respect to two things. One is the home side bias and the familiarity bias. Now, what is home side bias? A company or any investment avenue which is in the close proximity of my geography will be preferred than an investment which is away from, which is geographically located at a distance place. To give an example, suppose I have been given an option that I have to invest in a company which is located near Allahabad and a company which is located in Bangalore. Howsoever good that company is which is located near Bangalore, but my first preference will be to invest in a company which is located near Allahabad. Why? Because again, this illusion of control that in the previous session we have discussed, though I do not have any control over the company, whether it is located in Allahabad or Assam or it is located in Bangalore or Kolkata, I do not have any control. But since that company or that factory is visible, physically visible in front of my eyes, I have that feeling that I can control something. And that's why the term is illusion of control. In the previous session, sir have given a reference of Rose 1975. Illusion of control. So that home side bias, people have that home side bias because they feel that they can control a company, the physical existence of which is known to them. And so is the case with the familiarity bias. A company which is familiar to me. First in the home side bias, a company which is located in front of my eyes, that definitely that will be familiar, and I have more trust on that company, and there is every probability that I will be investing in the stocks of a company which is located in the close geographical proximity of my locality. Familiarity bias, a home side bias, we can say that this is a company familiar, definitely it will be near to my home, but familiarity bias is a bigger thing. A company may be familiar to me, but may not be located in the close geographical proximity of my locality. So familiarity bias, suppose I am familiar to that company, maybe when I was a student, I took my students or I went to an industrial tour in that company, and that's why I'm familiar to that company. And I will be biased towards that company because the physical existence of that company is known to me. I have seen that company. So this is the familiarity bias. We conducted a study which was published in the Journal of Behavioral Finance, me and Professor Bhawal sir. We have given a questionnaire to the employees of a company, that is the name of the company is Oil India Limited, that which company's shares will be more preferable to you, shares of Oil India Limited, because just a few years back Oil India Limited have given a stock option plan to their employees, and most of the employees of Oil India Limited, they become the shareholder in their own company. And our question was very simple. We have asked only one question, like which company's share is more preferable to you, shares of Oil India Limited and shares other than the Oil India Limited. And we found that there is not only statistical significant, a very clear-cut significant preference for the investment in the companies, in the shares of the companies called Oil India Limited. The reason was familiarity bias and home side bias. When we dig further into the problem, we found that they said that since we are working in the company, we have the trust in this company, we believe that we know this company better than any other company, and that's why we have more confidence in the stocks of the company of oil, in the stocks of Oil India Limited than any other company. Howsoever profitable may be the ONGC or IOC or any other shares listed in the BSE or NSE, but their clear-cut preference was for Oil India Limited. That is the home side bias and familiarity bias. Another study we have conducted in the state of Tripura, and you know that almost all the banks are having their own sponsored mutual funds, like SBI Mutual Fund, ICICI Mutual Fund, SDFC Mutual Fund, Canara Bank Mutual Fund. All the banks are having, they are nowadays sponsoring a mutual fund of them, of their own. And we have asked the bank employees, your investment preference for the mutual funds that is sponsored by your own bank, and the mutual funds not sponsored by your own bank. And here also we found a clear-cut familiarity bias or home side bias. Knowingly fully well they are educated bank employees, financially literate, they know everything, that they do not have any control over the fund management or the fund manager of that particular mutual fund. He or she will be sitting somewhere in Bombay, and that person cannot control, but simply because that mutual fund is visible, the name of the bank is associated with our bank, the name of the mutual fund is associated with our bank, we will have a clear-cut preference for that mutual fund. So these are the two studies we have conducted: home side bias and familiarity bias. And that's why it is found that the stock exchange of the country where the investors are residing is supposed to be more familiar or less ambiguous than the stock exchange situated in a foreign country. This is also a research finding in the context of an international study. The respondents, they prefer to invest in a company which is listed in the stock exchange of their own country. And the firms or companies situated near to the place of residence of investor is considered to be more familiar than those firms or companies located far away from the place of residence of investors. So this is already, an employee of a company find the shares of a company where they used to work as more familiar than the shares of other companies. We have discussed this already. And the familiar stock look attractive for investor due to familiarity bias, and therefore investors invest heavily in those stocks and invest little or nothing at all in other stocks or in ambiguous stocks. Then next mistake or the next problem that people do is the naive diversification. Naive means the nausicaa diversification. And what is that? People have to make simultaneous choices. They tend to seek more variety than they would have sought had they made sequential choices. Okay. Now, if I ask a question to you, anyone, the male participants, how many shaving blade you will be using in the next 1 year? So definitely you will arrive at some number, maybe. Okay, but if I ask how many blades are you going to use in the next week, definitely you will be coming at a number, and if you just multiply that number with 52, definitely it will not be exactly same, because people, when they are asked to make a decision or make choices for a distant future, they normally overestimate it. That is the naive diversification. So if the investors are asked about the stocks to be considered for investment in next year, they will choose relatively more number of stocks. If I ask which are the stocks that you are going to invest in the next financial year, for 1 year, 365 days, today is the 15th June, so 14th June 2022, how many stocks will be choosing? And definitely it was found that they will choose a more number of stocks. But if the same investor is asked about the stocks to be invested in the next week or month, he will consider lesser number of stocks than he or she would have chosen for the investment in the next financial year. And if he is asked for number of stocks for the next month, he will be giving you some number, 1, 2, 3, some number he will be giving or she will be giving, and you just multiplied that number with 12. It will not be exactly the same number that the investor would have given in the first case. So that is a naive diversification is there, and it means that when people are asked to make large investment by considering several stocks at once, they usually used to diversify more as compared to making the same type and amount of investment in small installments sequentially. So this is also applicable in case of retirement plans. our like in India also we have the national pension system, and one unique feature of our national pension system is that we can plan the fund management. We have more control. So we have been given one PRAN number, permanent retirement account number, and we can give mandate to our fund manager, or we can give mandate to our the agency that how much of my total money that I'm contributing every month to the retirement money will be allocated towards equity, how much of the total money will be allocated towards corporate bonds and government securities and fixed income bearing securities. That mandate we can give to the fund manager, and or who will be our fund manager, that choice also we can make. With that, there are some fund manager like LIC fund manager, LIC or UTI or SDFC or Axis Bank. There are various fund managers. Now who will be our fund manager, and for every fund manager what will be the mandate of their investment we can give. But normally again it is seen that while making retirement plans, a good number of people are using a simple strategy of allocating 1 by n of their savings to each of the n available investment options. And why they are doing that? They argue that it is practiced by the people irrespective of the investment options, and it was also observed that many people adopted this practice very religiously. They practice it as if this type of allocation comes from laboratory, and that's why they practice it very religiously. But the fact is that there is no logic, there is no justification with that. We have to apply our mind, we have to study which of the avenues are giving better return and which of the avenues are not giving better return. And here again, the loss aversion or the attitude or the behavioral finance, like somebody will be going for more of the equity, somebody will be going for more of government securities or the bonds, corporate bonds, again because of their preference towards different securities. Another kind of diversification we have seen, we have conducted a study and we have seen that people normally used to make the same proportion of their investment in the different class of investment over a period of time. Like if it is 10% in equity in past, maybe 5 years earlier, they will say that every time I used to make 10% of my total investment in equity. So 10 years back also 10% in equity, now also 10% equity, and in future also 10% of the equity. So they would like to have the same range of investment, same proportion of investment in one category of asset. Whereas just now we have discussed that with the passage of time, the proportion of equity should come down and the proportion of fixed income bearing securities should be more in our portfolio. But since because this is a naive, we are naive diversification, naive in that, and we are just following the practice that every time we'll be investing exactly the same proportion of investment in the our different in our investment. Another problem is excessive trading. Yesterday when we have started discussion, and one assumption was that had the human being or had the market participants been rational, there would not have been excessive trading. Why? Because the security which is attractive to me, the same security will be attractive to others also, those who are holding it. And since the person who is holding that security, he also thinks that this security is very attractive security, and that's why he or she will not be selling it. And if he or she will not be selling, I cannot buy it. And ultimately what will be the result? That there will be very little trading in that particular security. But the fact is that there is excessive trading in the stock market. And if you just see the volume of trading in the stock market every day, I remember in 2007-2008, for the first time the total volume of trading in the stock market was 1 lakh crore, and it was a big news 13-14 years back that it is 1 lakh crore. Now the volume of total trading in the stock market is 3 lakh, 4 lakh crore, 5 lakh crore every day. So from 1 lakh crore to 5 lakh crore, 5 times or 6 times this volume have increased. Okay, it means that the market participants, the investors, are not rational. Okay, so one of the clearest prediction of rational model of investing is that there is a very little trading and all the investors have the same set of information. Okay, I bought some security, say for 250 rupees, and I bought some security for 250 rupees. I hold it for some time, and after some time it becomes 500 rupees, and I think that I'm a very smart investor. I have pressed the sell button in my computer that I want to sell this security because I made a profit of 100% from 250 to 500, but I forget that on the other side of the screen, on some other computer terminal, some other investor is sitting with some other set of information, and he or she is buying the same security at 500 rupees, and he also assumes that that person, or she also assumes that he or she is equally smart. I am also considering myself smart, that I have made a profit of 100%, and the person sitting on the other side of the screen, he also considering himself or herself equally smart, that I am buying it at 500 rupees. Why? Because I have one set of information and I think that this is overvalued. He had other set of information thinking that this is undervalued and it is worth buying that security for 500 rupees. So all the investors have the same set of information, there would not have been trading. But since the investors have different set of informations, there is trading and excessive trading. And excessive trading means all the investors have, there's so much of the noise in the market, all the investors have different informations. But all of them have similar expectation. What is that similar expectation? That I am the smartest investor in this world. I am the only person who can make profit, and I'm the smartest. I'm born to make profit. I cannot make any loss. So this is all of them have the similar expectations. And then a stock possessed by one investor is likely to be sold by him because it is not an attractive stock. But the problem is no one in the market would be ready to buy this stock, because as a rational investor, this stock is unattractive for other investors as well. This is actually for when the market is rational and the market is efficient. But there is a excessive trading in the market. The volume of trading on the stock exchanges all over the world has increased, and it is a testimony that significant number of investors in the stock market are not rational, and they are not rational. Barber and Odin found that investors would have earned more had they traded less. The underperformance of the portfolio return is firstly due to the transaction cost, and secondly due to the poor security selection. The day after tomorrow we have a session on transaction cost analysis. Like, there are different types of transaction cost. One type of transaction cost which is visible, that we are making payment to the brokers, we are paying this short-term capital gain tax, brokerage, some fees, trading fees, etc. we are paying. That is the visible part. There is invisible part of transaction cost as well. Like, when I took a decision to invest in a particular share, say, and at that time that particular share was traded at say 200 rupees, and when I placed the order it became 201 or 202 rupees. So the loss of 2 rupees, I will not say that this is a transaction cost, but actually this is a cost because I took the decision and I implemented it late. Had the decision been implemented immediately, I would have saved 2 rupees. But since we have implemented that decision a bit late, and in the meantime market has moved, that is the transaction cost. Okay, and secondly, due to the poor security selection, we are not able to. Okay, Sasank Srivastava, we will come to that question. So, and secondly, due to the poor security selection, we are not able to select securities very accurately, very correctly. And why we are going for the poor security selection? Again, there is a whole lot of story that, as I told you yesterday, that when we are going to buy potato, and we'll ask what is the cost of this potato, and the shopkeeper will say 20 rupees per kg, and we will select each and every potato very carefully. Okay, we will see that not a single potato should be a rotten one or is a bad one. We will see that all the potatoes should be of good quality. But the same person, this is very unfortunate part with we all the learned investors, like we people, when the same person have to make our decision with respect to the investment, we took a little time, like not even the time that is required to buy a potato. Simply we will put our signature on the advice of broker or agent, and we will pay the check to our agent, say maybe 50,000 lakh, as the case may be. Simply, and we will not even read the document where we are signing. We will not read the offer document or the red herring prospectus. Nothing will be reading, and ultimately that leads to the poor security selection. Now, why this poor security selection? So, like the other speakers will speak lot of things, but I am just giving one or two examples. Last month, one friend of mine, he came to me and he said that Ranjit ji, GVK Power is very good company. I said, how? Because this is a Gujarat based company and power based company. No, why? What is that? I asked, like, what is the logic behind that? It is the company is from Gujarat and it is dealing in the power. Because our Prime Minister is from Gujarat, and now this current government is giving too much focus or too much emphasis on power generations, and definitely this company will be doing good. I asked him what is the cost of that particular share. He said it is 10 rupees. मैंने पूछा, just because I am speaking in Hindi just to convey the message, अगर वो इतना ही अच्छा होता तो उसका दाम 10 रुपया क्यों होता? तो लेकिन अभी उन्होंने कहा कि he said कि it's a new company, later on it will grow up, right? Just have you read what is the business of that company, what is the profit of that company, since how long that company is in the market? No, I have not seen, but this is a power based company, Gujarat based company dealing in power sector. Definitely this will be a good company, I am going to invest. And a few days back the same person came and he said, Ranjit ji, iska GVK Power ka kya karna hai, because now it came down and now it is traded at 3 rupees or 4 rupees. मैंने आपने तो बोला था कि वो लेकिन ये सब धोखा है. So this is, we just go for security selection based on some anchors, some representativeness. The previous speaker have talked about representativeness, because the name is power, it is from Gujarat. Okay, we will attach some anchor to it, that it will be definitely a good company. So that is how that we are going for a poor security selection. Manu Bhai Chhabria, another incident. That company came up with a public issue in 96, 97, 20 years back almost. And in that red herring prospectus, that the prospectus which it has issued for the investors, जिसमें सारा detail लिखा रहता है, it has clearly written that this company have no plant. The money which will be raised after issuing the shares will be used for setting up the plant, and after that the company will be starting its production, and then it will start marketing its product, and then everything will be there. And it have posted a very good photograph of Pooja Bedi in some very less clothes, and the prospect was circulated among the probable investors, and many people have simply buy that stocks based on some representativeness and anchoring, and after that that company have not given any dividend. Some people have filed a complaint in SEBI that we have invested in that company and the company have not paid any dividend. But now, being a student of commerce and management, do you think that the company is bound to pay any dividend? Dividend is not obligatory. Company
Yes, sir.
Company is not bound to pay any dividend because company have clearly written that this company do not have any operational plant. With the money it will be raising, it will set up a plant in certain places. So this is why that we normally select a security without understanding, without reading, without understanding the business of that company. And that's why I personally advise you all people that before investing any money in any company, before buying stocks, read thoroughly about the company, about the business. Like Warren Buffett have once said that I do not invest in the stocks of any company. He's the biggest investor in this world. But I do not invest in the stocks of any company. Rather, I invest in the business of that particular company. So this is how we have to invest. We have to select a security so that our portfolio return is not that so bad. And one of the most obvious behavioral explanation of such excessive trading in the stock market is the overconfidence of investors. Overconfident investors, they trade more. And again, the fact that the volume of trading in the stock market have increased so much, it is again a testimony that majority of the investors in the market are overconfident. Now, a selling decision. What psychology people have while making a selling decision? So investors, they do not like to sell any asset which is currently trading at a price lower than the price at which they were bought. Now, just in the previous session, one concept was discussed, disposition effect. Now, what is disposition effect? Tendency of the investors to sell the winning stocks and retain the losers. I'm giving you one example. India won 2011 World Cup. India won Champions Trophy 2013, and then India is now the #1 test team in the world. Now it is going to play the World Test Championship. Now, how our team become the world champion? The reason is very simple. We have picked the winners. We have retained the performers, and we have eliminated the non-performers. And by doing so, we have made a very strong combination, winning combination. Now, don't you think that the same thing is applicable in stock market in your portfolio? In our portfolio, we are doing the reverse thing. The winning stock is kicked out and the losing stock is retained in our portfolio, and we think we are expecting our portfolio to outperform. Is it possible? So investors, they do not, because they any asset which is currently traded at a price lower than the price at which it was brought, so like it is a losing asset, and we are retaining that, and a winning asset is being sold out. So ultimately we are creating a loser's portfolio, losing portfolio, and having a losing portfolio, we cannot expect to have a return, a significant return in the long run. Now the question is, why this disposition effect? Why people have the tendency to sell winning stock and sell the losing stock? The answer lies in the prospect theory itself. Okay, because if you have gone through the prospect theory in the morning itself, it was discussed that losses gives pain, but losses when it will be realized. So when I will sell a stock which is traded at a lower price, the loss will be booked, and I will be reminded that I have made a loss, and losses gives pain, and nobody would like to take any pain. So people would like to avoid pain, and in order to avoid pain, they will not sell that stock. They will not sell that asset. so that they can avoid that pain and the regret of that pain. Okay, there are some benefits of selling that stock, that some tax considerations will be there. We can set off the losses against the profit of some other heads, and we can make some profit in that. But this would have been the rational decision, but we do not, and we sell the winning stock. So this is one tendency. It is visible in the stock market. Like you as an academician, most of us are the researchers and the teachers. We can also ask our students to do this kind of a study. I asked my student to do a study on disposition effect, and I also got the similar result. Buying decision. Like yesterday we have discussed that there will be thousands and thousands of securities in the market, but which security will be selected for buying? So definitely a security which catches our attention. Okay, so which security will catch our attention? So attention effect, people's decision to buy stock is due to attention effect. Like a security which has done some significant moves in the long run, a short run, so that will catch the attention of the people. So people, they do not scan all the stocks listed on the stock exchange and buy a stock which has caught their attention due to any reason. Maybe this company have given a huge dividend or huge bonus or got some very significant order, and that company will catch the attention of the investors, and that company will be chosen for investment. And one reason for the finest attention by any stock is extreme past performance. Representative heuristics, we have already discussed. Another possible reason for some investors who systematically look for and buy stocks with very well past performance is their representative heuristics. It is because investors believe that the good performance of a stock will continue, and this is a naive use of representative heuristics. And another category of investors may look for stocks with extreme poor prior performance, and this is because they believe that such stocks are undervalued and will rebound. Okay. So this is a case study I have given in by that book also. So you can just refer this case study. It is not significant. There was one small case late is there. In December 2007, the prices of equity shares such as JP Associates, Reliance Communication and DLF were at the level of rupees 300, 750 and 1400 respectively. In January 2008, the stock market was crashing. Then the prices of these stocks also started falling. It was seen during those days that investors who were in need of some money were selling those securities which has not gone down significantly in value, and avoid selling securities mentioned above because of their significant fall in value, and they had the belief that if they continue to hold those securities, then in course of time they would be able to recover the loss. But these shares continue to fall, and as on December 2016 they were traded at rupees 9, 45 and 130. See, 300 to 9, 750 to 45 and 1400 to 130 respectively, and thus the rational decision would have been to sell those shares, and if they would have done this, they could have avoided further losses, but they didn't. Now, what this phenomena is called? This phenomena definitely disposition effect. And what are the benefits of selling a stock which has gone down in value? Definitely the benefit that we have listed, that at least we can have some tax benefit. The losses that we have made can be set off against some other profit. If it is a short-term capital gains, capital loss, then it can be set off against our salary income or income from business. If it is a long term, then also it can be set off against some other profits. And is it always advisable to not to sell a stock which has risen in value? No, actually we have to see from case to case basis. Sometimes the rise in the price is only cyclical. So that's why we have to be very alert. We have to be very cautious while taking this kind of decisions. And but most of the time, if a stock is good, definitely it will go high in value. But sometimes, even though a stock is good, but because of the cyclical or the market fluctuations, it may come down. So it does not mean that we have to sell it, but if it is definitely a good company, a fundamentally strong company, it is a strong share to be invested, and we can buy it because the same share is now available at a cheaper price, And remember, in the stock market, you will not be rewarded for taking risk. You will be rewarded for buying cheap. So if because of any cyclical fluctuations, market crash, some shares which is fundamentally strong is available at a low price, definitely you should buy it. I did it I should not promote a company, but I'm just sharing my experience. Tata Steel, now it is traded at around 1100 and 1200. A few months back, it was traded at less than 500 rupees. And I knew that this is a fundamentally very strong company. Definitely, we have to buy this stock. So I did it. And now it is traded at 1200 rupees. And this year, they have declared a dividend of 250%, that is 20.